Hi there, and welcome back to Hard at Work, the podcast where we discuss about mental health in the workplace. I'm your host, Patrick, and this is the third part of our series, Mental Toolkit. We will explore the different ways that we can equip ourselves so that we can maintain a balanced and healthy mental state of mind. Our topic of discussion today is music, and I'm joined today with Mr. Kai Peng. For those of us who may not really know you and what you do, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm a practicing psychotherapist, and so my practice consists mainly of psychoanalysis and also music therapy. So I'm currently a student therapist or student counselor, to be a bit more specific.
Well, today we want to talk about music. So music is something that all of us are very well accustomed to, whether we listen it, we listen it on the go when we're going to places as a leisure activity. Although, some of us may be listening to music more than the other. Some of us even play music. But today we're going to discuss a little bit more on how it affects our mental health and how we can use music as a way to really improve our wellness. Back when we were talking about earlier, you also mentioned how you used to practice music. So
Yes.
what is your view on music in general?
Just to give everyone a little background on myself. So I was a professional musician at one point, and I did teach music as well to people. So my view on music is that first, there's two different kinds of ways that we typically, interact with music. So first one is listening, second one is playing. So huge advantage about listening is that it's very, very portable. Nowadays everyone has a phone and everyone has 5G and everyone has an earpiece, even better. You don't have to bother other people when you are listening to it. So it's extremely portable. You can do it really anywhere. Now, second one is playing. Now, playing is not so portable because instruments are varying sizes. But both but the second one, playing, can be very rewarding when you actually do take your time to spend your time to learn how to do it. And listening to music can also be very relaxing because it goes hand in hand with meditation, or perhaps sometimes you can just take to relax in a certain corner in your office, or perhaps when you take lunch, or in school even. So in between your lessons, maybe during a short break, one of those, you can music therapy. Just listening to music really works very well there to just relax yourself.
I remember back then, because I lived in the radio era. So back when we have our, smartphones, those iPods, I would bring a pocket radio everywhere. So I don't know if that's the same for you as well. Playing an instrument is not as convenient. It's not as portable. Some of us are lucky. Some of us play the harmonica, something that is, that you can bring at you at all times. Some of us, play the piano. What type of instruments do you play?
I play the piano, and I play what's known as wind instruments. So I play the trumpet, trombone, and I play what's known as string instruments as well. So the violin and the guitar.
Multi-instrumentalist.
I must say that I'm not confident in performing all the instruments, but yes, I do have certain expertise in my biggest expertise are in my trombone and in my piano.
After having all this training in music, how has that translated to your current vocation as a therapist?
It's actually very useful because there's the practical experience of it. Because in music therapy itself, some of it is teaching the client how to play the instrument, like the very, very basics. You're not a music teacher, but you got to teach the client, you should do maybe these basic things so that you may, advance with the instrument, because everybody is frustrated when they see no progress. So you must, at least push them in the right direction, like, you should practice this. This is how you roughly do it. And yeah. So give them some progress in that aspect. And the part that I find the most useful, and I'm maybe the most experimental according to the literature, is that you can actually take note of the harmonics, or how should I say, the chord structure of which a person finds relaxing. So for me, I prescribe a certain piece of music. Okay, so what do you like, what do you not like about this piece of music? So maybe they'll be like, I like this part where, let's say, scale. So a lot of do re mi, very Mozart-esque. So
Yeah.
a lot of very simple do, re, mi, fa, so just going up, going down. So I'll take note of that, and because I'm familiar with the different types of music, I'll go look at the proper genre first thing. I'll look at the proper exact piece of music. Of course, it's not an exact science, but that's roughly how the information has helped me. So I'm like, okay, this person likes this kind of certain thing. Maybe he likes the chord structure, and I'm able to identify that because of my background. He likes this certain chord structure, perhaps. He likes this certain instrument, even. He likes this certain tone, or certain form of expression. Maybe he likes singing as well. So certain type of singing. He likes baritone notes. Maybe he likes soprano notes. He or she. So from there, my how should I say, past information is very helpful in
That's
picking that out.
interesting.
And
so you're like prescribing medicine, but instead of medicine, you're prescribing songs based on what
they like,
what they like.
what they find relaxing. Yes. So it's a very interesting process because in Singapore, we really do like different kinds of music because of our culture. So some of them, even my age, they like perhaps a bit more traditional music, and some of them like more Western music. Some of them perhaps like classical music. So it's from that aspect, it's really interesting of what you can actually give them. Because you a bit like a puzzle, you have to figure out what they exactly like.
Doesn't that mean that everybody will have a different genre? So there's not one hard and fast rule to prescribing. For example, they are feeling a certain thing and you want them to feel another different way, and therefore you prescribe them a certain type of genre. It's not as simple as that then.
Yes, it isn't, because let me give you an example. So let's say I have a friend. I have a friend. He finds rock music or metal music very relaxing, and I can perhaps give another person this rock and metal, and he or she will simply just like brush it aside and say, no, this is noise to me. So there are examples like this, but there is a general rule when it comes to, let's say, prescribing the pieces I give them. So for example, I typically pick pieces that are a bit slower, and pieces that are what I'll say the system called easier to predict. So I'll go into this a bit later, but the reason we like music is because of this thing known as predictive coding. Predictive coding is I would say a bit of a theory about why we like music. It's a theory that I use. So predictive coding says that when we listen to music, or not just music actually, but in the case of music, when we listen to music, your mind actually predicts what's coming next. So I mentioned just now that I have one client that likes scales a lot, and that's because according to that theory, it's because it's very easy to predict. For example, Mozart's pieces uses a lot of scales, so that's why I'll say people do enjoy it, because it's to a limited degree when the parts are not all of it, but to a limited degree his music is relatively predictable. So when your mind predicts the piece of music correctly, you are actually given just a slight bit of dopamine and other brain chemicals that I shall not go too much into detail to. But yeah, your brain gives you a small amount. So that's why perhaps we like, let's say a person has a favorite song and they can listen to that song over and over and over again. So this concept really can be applied here. So this is my favorite song. Other factors as well, perhaps you like the beat and the tone of it, perhaps, but mostly because the person is predicting it completely correct. He's like really known. She really knows what's happening. So and she's getting his relaxation and dopamine hit from it, to say. Of course, there is a small exception to this. This predictive coding. There's a small group of people that are exception to this rule. So there's actually a small group of, I would say, mostly experienced musicians who sort of take the opposite, but because they listen to so much music already, they're like, oh, I know what's coming next. So when they listen to something that's like a bit off, or like a bit more, how should I say, new, it cannot be noise. It will not be noise, but music that's a bit how should I say, a bit unpredictable, maybe a bit like jazz. They'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I did not expect that. So there is that small group.
I think that's why there's this stigma, at least for where I come from, where they always say like jazz is an acquired taste. And
Yes.
sometimes when you grow old, then you'll be able to appreciate it. And probably that's because when you grow older, you've just listened to that many songs. Sometimes you
Yes.
want a new stimulus.
It's also if I may go into that a bit, it's also
Sure.
I do enjoy jazz music, but and they do have certain characteristics that makes it a little difficult to listen to. So
Mm.
that this thing's called accidental notes. So
Uh
how should I explain this? Accidental notes.
yeah, some songs that go a little bit sharp, a little bit flat, something that doesn't
Yes,
go
quite
within the do re
yeah
mi fa sol la si do.
yeah quite so, and they also often use minor scales.
Like again, even with minor and major scales, do some people derive that type of dopamine drive because of their predictive coding because it's a minor scale? Maybe that's something that they're used to. Like, is that possible, or
Yes,
is my
yes, very possible. So, but naturally, the normal person uh, is not used to a minor scale because the chord itself is not a very harmonious. No, no, not harmonious.
harmonious?
Harmonious is the wrong word. So the chord is good, but the average person might not be able to listen. They're like, oh, this is why it sounds this way. This is correct. So in their mind, like, oh, this is wrong, but actually, this is correct. So that's the part where it's a bit
Yeah, I get it though because I practice music as well, and sometimes people will ask me that doesn't sound right, and my answer to that is always no, that sounds right. And no, I was like that's correct. It's just a different type of chord, yeah.
yes,
Because
yeah.
in the end, I guess this is something that is also quite we play on each other, especially with some of my jazz musician friends.
Mhm, yeah.
We always tell them that it's like, no, it's not the wrong note, it's just jazz. Because there's every chord for
Yes,
everything, right?
yes, it's a little bit of it's a little bit of shall I say, a meme in
Yeah,
playing jazz. It's like, oh, no worries, it's not a wrong note, it's
it's
just jazz.
jazz. It's a jazz chord.
Yeah,
But
yeah, especially that it's a jazz chord.
but again, going back, you were
Mm,
saying how we when we listen to you use we prescribe people certain songs when they are feeling a certain way.
mm,
But you also explain that you teach them music as well.
mhm.
So how does that go about? Is it the same like if you were to teach any normal person, let's say they want to get into piano, do you do it the same to your patients?
Well, my clinic doesn't actually have a piano, so yeah. So unfortunately, I would love to when let's say my client just want to learn the piano. So right now I'm using actually just app version of the piano, and
Hmm.
the piano can be quite the investment as well. So of course they're cheaper ones. So I do tell them, oh, okay, you can get this particular brand,
Hmm.
normally Yamaha, at a quite an inexpensive price. Don't get
Hmm.
the full piano, yeah, just get like the electronic one.
Yeah, yeah.
If yeah, because there's one that's what I can't remember the exact brand. I wrote it in my phone. There's one brand that's like the keys feel real,
Hmm.
and the sound is also there, and it's only $200. It's $250, and you can. The best thing about it is you can plug in your headset and yeah, it
You don't
plays
have
to
to disturb
yourself.
other people, right?
Yes, yes. So that's a concern for a lot of people, and it's an electronic one, so it's really not that heavy either. So that's the
Hmm.
most like portable one. That's still $250.
Hmm.
But in the session itself, what I do is that I will give them like the phone app. I'll say, okay, this is your C note. Okay, and
Hmm.
sometimes you have to be more patient with them. Sometimes they are very afraid of failure. Sometimes they're very afraid of new things.
Hmm.
So actually, letting them play the instrument itself can be very empowering because they're like, oh, I didn't know I could be capable of such a thing. No matter how small their progress, and naturally they need a lot of encouragement.
Hmm.
Uh, because let's say you have a person who's known failure all his life and is heavily into depression, he was never good enough
Yeah.
ever.
Right.
So let's say you have a person like that. So you give him an instrument to play, and you yourself encourage them. Okay, so it's not so much about encouraging them. It's more about them realizing that they have accomplished something perhaps not everybody can do.
There's this stigma saying that as you grow older, it's harder for you to learn new things. Has that applied to you? when you were conducting lessons?
There's an typically no, but there is an exception to this. So very young children, when they learn music, so this is a bit more developmental, but very young children, when they learn music, they have a good chance of developing what's called perfect pitch, and that can no longer be developed after the age of 6. So young children pick up instruments very well, but that's just because young children pick up everything very fast. Like they pick up 2 languages in like 2 years. Like young children can tend to do that, but that's the only exception to that rule. Other than that, no, it's not true, because everybody is able to learn music. But the thing is, it's not an age thing. It's sort of people learn things at different speeds. It's just it's just like that. We learn things at different speed. I won't pick up a sport in the next week, but somebody else might be. So same thing for music. Maybe this guy takes let's say a few months to learn a skill, or perhaps the different skills, and this other student takes maybe 1 week. It's not so much of a how should I say, he's not able to learn because he's old. It's more of perhaps I shall take a bit more time to learn this, just because it's a bit trickier for myself for whichever reason. Naturally, I must say that there are also other forms of relaxation that's also very portable. For example, art therapy. So drawing, also very, very portable. Or perhaps appreciating the art, looking at it and going, and same effect of art therapy. You can put a piece of art there and sort of take your time to appreciate it. You can draw your own. So other forms of therapy as well, if the person finds it unsuitable.
Then may I know, in your opinion, what's the main thing you're trying to accomplish with this music therapy?
Music therapy for me, the main thing is that it helps people calm down. So once I finish my session, I'll like give them a piece of music and be like, okay, if you're feeling your whichever symptoms, like you're feeling your anxiety, you're feeling your depression, you're feeling your compulsion to do a certain behavior, you can take this, listen to this. I'll give them the playlist, or maybe 1 or 2 songs at first, because I give them like sort of a few pieces of music, like, okay, listen to this when you're feeling distressed. And the thing about it is that it's very portable. I would say the very, very huge upside to this is it's extremely portable, and everybody is able to listen to it. So learning how to play an instrument takes a lot of time and takes a lot of effort, but it's very rewarding, and it's a new hobby, and you can show it to everybody. So it's very rewarding in that aspect, but it takes a lot of time, and some people are just not ready to put in the time and the finance needed to do it, and that's fine. That's fine. Actually, we live very, very busy lives nowadays. So that's completely fine. So I would say the playing instrument is more rewarding, but the listening to it is far more portable, far more accessible.
This is a weird question, but I want to know if there is a best practice to listening to music.
A best practice?
Like, is there a certain environment that you would have to be in if you want to get like the full effect of it?
Yeah, so you don't have to be alone, but you definitely need a place that you can hear it clearly. That's the number one thing. You're able to hear it clearly. So just a place where you're able to hear it clearly. Perhaps some place where you can just find very relaxing. Perhaps a place where you're alone. Perhaps you're just sitting down in a comfortable chair in a crowded area. Your place where you find physically comfortable. And then a place that's suitably quiet, so that you are able to really listen to everything and sort of concentrate on the music. Because it also is a pseudo type of meditation where you're concentrating on the music so that you're blocking everything else out.
Is it worth getting good earphones or headphones? In your opinion?
That is a very good question.
Because like when some of my friends come to me, my friends sometimes ask me like, is it worth investing in good earphones? My answer personally is always yes, it is, because there is a certain type. It's artists put so much thought into the music that they make because they want to invoke a very specific type of emotion that they're trying to translate or give to their audience. And I feel like having crappy earphones it doesn't do it justice. That's the music in me, but also it's because having that extra detail in the type of sounds that you listen to can make you feel so much more feel way more connected to the song itself. My answer is always yes. You don't have to go for the high end $500 headphones, right? Because there are some audiophiles that really go for that high end. I to me, I'm like, invest enough money for those who are able to. Like even something's a little below $100, again, soundproof, that has a wide enough frequency range. Like invest on those, and you will definitely enjoy your listening experience way more. But what about you?
For me, naturally comes to how much the client is willing to invest into this therapy. Because for me, if most of them, if you have an Apple's AirPod, I feel that like that's good. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you have like, let's say something that came with your Samsung phone, that's also fine. But I would say like, maybe perhaps you should not use your $2, $3 earpiece,
Right.
because because it does. Yeah, there's a small effect, but it does block out certain sounds as mentioned. Okay, the thing is, you need to know exactly what you want before you do invest the money. So I wouldn't advise the client, first session I give you music therapy, yes, I'm going to buy a $500 or $300 or however much. So you need to go, okay, I like this certain part about the music. Then perhaps I'll say, oh, if you like just this certain part about this characteristic about the music, then I'll recommend or take maybe a Sennheiser headset or earpiece, this particular one. So up to the client, and depending on he or she, I'll make a recommendation of if he or she knows exactly what she wants. If he or she just wants to like, oh, I want to get something expensive because I want this therapy to go faster and I'll be like, no.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, calm down. You don't listen to it. Yeah. It's to each their own. If you really feel that you can appreciate it, then go ahead, please go ahead. And you have the money, of course. Like naturally, if you don't have the money, probably not. But if you do have the money and you really feel that you can appreciate it, 100%, go ahead.
Then my final question is, how would you advise someone who wants to take up an instrument or are pushing their family members to pick up an instrument, as someone who have gone through that musical academic journey?
Oh, this is actually a very interesting topic, because the thing is, I truly feel you cannot push someone. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to, you cannot push them to play the instrument too much. They'll absolutely hate it. So I have a few children who, not my children, but I have a few students who are children, to specify. They're absolutely being forced by their parents to take the piano class. And you can see that they don't want to practice. They hate every single time they have to press the key. They hate everything about the instrument. That at that point is very counterproductive. So perhaps not push, but you want to encourage someone to pick up the instrument. The thing is, if you are a musician, so first two categories. If you're a musician, you have to give them some encouragement in the form of, oh, you managed to do your skills this week, you managed to play this thing that you're not able to previously. So very small things. Encourage them on very small things. Because the thing about music is that the progress is exponential. At the start, it's very slow, and everybody gets discouraged at the start. I'm very sure that many of the listeners out there will know like a person or two that starts, oh, I want to learn piano, he takes it for a month or two, then drops it.
Right.
Because the learning curve is extremely high at the start. So you need to kind of encourage them every small thing at the start. Oh, you're doing well, don't worry. You did this small thing well. You're able to do this small thing now. And for the perhaps not so musically inclined, same thing, just perhaps encourage the person once in a while. That's like, oh, this sounds good, or like, I like this thing that you're playing. So things like that will be, trust me, very encouraging to the person, because the person is always sitting there making his very slow progress, and he or she is never really able to see his progress because it's slow. So encouragement from the outside is very helpful.
All right then. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Kai Peng, for coming on today. It's been an honor and a huge pleasure to talk with you and discuss more about music. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and remember, stay well,
stay healthy,
both in mind
and in body.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.